I just want to welcome everybody to this webinar and really, I guess, the public launch of the partnership between the Back Office by Buyer's Edge platform and TipHaus. We're really excited to have you all here, talk a little bit about kind of what we're up to and how this partnership kind of came together. But more importantly, we're excited to have Kevin Egan here, who is a shared customer of both of these groups and has been for quite some time. So has a lot of experience predating this partnership and whatnot, which is extremely fun and exciting. Give a little background. My name is Steve Hooper. I'm the president of partnerships and business development here at TipHaus. I'm actually an operator by background. Up until last year, I was running Ethan Stowell restaurants in Seattle, and have spent most of my career on the operations side. So this tech side is a little new, but I'm having a lot of fun with it. And go ahead, Corey.
Yeah, pleased to be here. Corey Shuff, Director of Sales at Back Office. Been with Buyer's Edge Platform since 2015, and have been working with restaurants for about my entire life. Started washing dishes at an independent restaurant that a friend of mine's parents owned. And I started serving dishes, and then I started filling those dishes. And so I kind of moved around that business until moving over to the platform. And so I get to talk restaurant operations all day. It's never a bad thing. So really, really pleased to be here.
Mr. Egan.
Yeah, pleased to be here as well. Thank you for having me. And everybody, thank you for joining. So Kevin Egan, I started in the industry, same as probably most people on the call. I was busting tables at 16 at the Red Robin down in Auburn. It was amazing. Auburn, Washington. And slowly worked my way up, worked through college as a server and a bartender, and then came to Hops and Drops and started as a bar manager. And then worked every position from 2009 to present. Been the CEO of Hops and Drops for 3 years now in November, so just crossed over the 3-year mark. It's been a good time.
Yeah, you guys have seen a lot of growth over that run, which we'll get into here. Obviously we're here to talk about the TipHaus and Buyers and Back Office platforms, but more it's about sort of how it impacts the businesses that you run. On the TipHaus side, we're an automated tip management system that also handles tip payouts for businesses that are looking to pay out their teams daily or move away from cash payouts that happen. And really what that means is we hook in with your point of sale system. We get all the data, time and attendance. If you use a different platform, we do that as well. And we pull all that in so that you can calculate tips in an automated way to simplify usually the Excel spreadsheets that most people are using in the restaurant world, and that I was using until I brought TipHaus into my restaurant group back in 2022. So that's the TipHaus side. And Corey, if you want to chat about yours.
Yeah, so Back Office is a full restaurant-specific end-to-end platform. So it's restaurant-specific accounting, bookkeeping, restaurant-specific payroll, as well as all the operations tools you'd need. So inventory management, recipe costing, budgeting, et cetera. So really trying to take all of the nuances that are specific to the restaurant industry that TipHaus thinks about with kind of tip distribution. And we're playing a similar role on the other side of the coin with financials and restaurant payroll, restaurant operations. So a lot of synergies. The middle of the Venn diagram is quite big between the two organizations and the two services. So really excited to talk about how our companies collaborate with operators like Kevin.
I'll share that slide later when we get to the end of the presentation. Really, the conversation today is mostly kind of talking with Kevin around sort of, look, you've been a Back Office customer since the beginning of Hops and Drops, if I'm not mistaken. You were one of the earliest TipHaus customers in terms of adopting that platform. So I'd say folks should look at your tech stack and just copy whatever you do, because it's probably the best of the best if you're using both of these two platforms. I guess the question is, like, how has it benefited your business as you've scaled over the last 15 years?
Yeah, the biggest benefit, so we as a company believe or want to be GM driven as possible. So meaning the GMs of each restaurant can be the owners of their restaurant, and take full ownership and autonomy and make all the decisions that they need to make and run a successful restaurant. So back office, formerly Razzie, was a place where the GMs can get all the information that they needed to make decisions that are best for their business. So it created a lot of ownership, and I think that was a selling point for a lot of people or a lot of GMs as they came to us, that, hey, we don't really want to tell you what to do. We want you to work off of your plan. Well, the best way to do that is giving them all the tools possible to be able to make decisions and run their business. And the back office platform does that. So things from like weekly P&Ls, like you can go through your P&L every week just to see where things are coming in and out of, and what decisions that you can make to make a better impact. It's allowed us to scale because, as you know, you're the owner of your restaurant, you become a more sophisticated operator. You don't have someone telling you what to do or where to go look. You figure that out kind of yourself. And so there's a lot more high level operators that allowed us to grow and transition into other locations or areas with high level people. And so it's been a big foundation of what we believe as being GM driven, and the tool of back office has helped us do that. So that's, I think, the back office and what it's allowed us to do as far as scaling.
That's great. And what has that meant for like your team overall? Like, you know, in terms of like non-restaurant, like kind of the team supporting your GMs and all the restaurants.
Yeah. So we have a very small kind of support team or back office or a corporate office per se. So we don't have anybody doing, you know, company payroll or anybody doing company AP. So we have a limited amount of support team members that are non kind of restaurant operational. So it allows us to stay small as we grow big. So as we grow bigger and bigger, we don't have to hire on as many back off support people to support the restaurants. Those people are already in the restaurant. So the restaurant manager, the leaders, the GMs, the kitchen managers, they do the payroll, they do the AP submissions, they do the inventory, you know, balance and verify the sales page on their own. And that process takes, you know, from counting inventory to submitting everything, takes about 3 hours total, but that's inventory counting is sometimes longer than it should, but that process is relatively short. And then you get a P&L turned around right away to you. And they do that in the restaurant, and we have support people helping them. Back office helps with support requests. But for the most part, it's in the restaurant and they handle all the admin type work, but it's really only 3 hours.
That's not bad. On the tips side of things, how did you handle tips before implementing TipHaus? You know, was it paying out cash? Were you on paychecks and whatnot?
Yeah, tips was very fun. It was, as most people know, growing up in the industry, you left with your cash tips. And as a server, bartender, busser, host, that was all awesome. And that was a lot of the reasons why people were in the industry, was they left with their cash. Throughout the time, guests started spending more with credit cards, and so their credit card tips became higher and higher, and we as a company ended up having to pay out of our cash or out of our house banks servers cash to leave, and it just created problems with negative deposits and more headaches that way. So we went to TipHaus and found TipHaus, and they helped us with that process of putting tips on check, and then partnering with back office to be able to make that process really automated and super easy. So I talked about the 3 hour process, but the tip and the payroll process for us on Monday mornings when we do it is about 15 minutes. So we use Toast that goes into the back office, the TipHaus that goes into the back office, and it prints out a report. And really, it's just verifying the information. And as I was talking to one of our leaders last week, I was like, hey, how long does payroll take you? She's like, it took about 15 minutes. And I was like, for everything? She's like, yeah, it was just verifying. And I had to change a couple things, but it was pretty easy. And so that 15-minute process, which used to be an Excel sheet. You had to count all the money from tips. We did some tip pools for the heart of house. Write that as a deposit. Then a little bit goes on the team members check. Then most of the stuff went out to the bartenders, servers, expos in little envelopes. Like, here's $20 for this person. Here's $20 for this person. And that process was difficult because it took time. But also there's just that human element of mistakes and the legality and all that. And so the process of adopting TipHaus was just made it way more streamlined, way more easier, and it got adopted relatively quickly with the tips on check as well.
That's good to hear, because and like that can be a concern for employees, right? Like as you're changing the way they receive their compensation, they're used to receiving that cash. So as you made that transition, what came up for the employees? How did you handle that? And like what were the concerns?
Yeah, every time you mess with someone's money, everybody gets a little bit weary or wants to verify it. So we transitioned to tips on check. You know, if the team member has cash, they get to leave with that. But most of the tips ended up going on their check, and they got paid weekly. And so that's a benefit for back office, is it's a weekly paycheck, direct deposited. So they get the money pretty quick and this quick turnaround. But the big things were from the server and bartender standpoint of, hey, am I going to still make as much money? And being able to verify that. So through the TipHaus app, they were able to verify what they made daily, to see what they were taking home with. And then there was benefits from it being on their check, from being able to show income, higher income than what was just their minimum wage. And so the income on their W-2 was higher, so they're able to get car loans, get home loans, and show that income, which actually helped them too. And for me, you know, when I was getting all those tips, I had a big stack of cash that I would just, you know, buy CDs and food, and that's about it. But if I would have had that now, I probably would have been in a better spot from saving and stuff like that. So it's been a benefit for the team, of course. And then so for like the support team, so the 18, 19, 20-year-old busters and hosts and expos, they saw an increase a little bit in their pays, because we do based off of a percentage of the server sales goes to the support team. And, you know, sometimes, you know, the server would tip them $5. It's like, hey, thank you, here's your $5. But in reality, that buster maybe should have made $10 or $15, but it was just what the server thought about for that day. So it made it a little bit more fair or consistent for everybody. And the servers who were doing it right all along, there was no issues, but the servers who were kind of shortchanging the bartenders and busters, they got kind of called out in a way, or they got exposed in a way, and those really weren't the right people that we wanted working for us anyway. So there's some benefits there from finding the right people.
Yeah, well, that makes sense. It sounds like, you know, the payroll process, you know, just in general, and whatnot. And Corey, you mentioned, like obviously TipHaus, we're very automated in the way we do everything, and the payroll on your side is as well. So maybe you could talk a little bit about the payroll component of the back office platform, and what it means to be restaurant specific with payroll, as opposed to, you know, the other brands that might also be able to pay people.
Yeah, I think, you know, the restaurant industry is a little unique in that depending on the day, you might be getting a different pay rate. You might be, you know, serving as a different job, and managing all of that kind of information in spreadsheets or manually, like the Hops and Drops team used to do. That invites user error. It's labor time of sitting at a desk. And so I think when we talk about being restaurant specific, we're thinking about these nuances that are specific to restaurants, like different rates of pay depending on how you clock in, and then making sure all that information is funneled in directly from the POS, so that, again, you know, Kevin mentioned it taking 15 minutes. You're kind of just scanning down lines, doing an audit, versus making sure that every single one of the 10,000 keystrokes you made were perfect. Otherwise, there's serious tax implications. And so thinking about how do we take all the human, all of the manual process that has really serious consequences if done incorrectly, how do we automate all of that and then give folks like Kevin the means by which to verify all that information is going smoothly and working properly. I think it's just, similar to TipHaus, we're leveraging technology to take what is otherwise really manual, and tighten it up so that a team like Kevin's can stay really lean as they continue to grow.
Yeah, Kevin, I mean, to that point, how many support team members do you have that sit outside of the restaurants, and how many locations are you at now?
Yes, we're at 22 locations. We have a total of 13 support team members. So one's an R&M person, one's a tech person, one's dedicated to hiring. And then we have a training and a safety person, and then executive team. Our payroll or our kind of finance department is two people, is our CFO and then kind of a bookkeeper type, but she mostly handles more corporate things, or as we're building out new restaurants, doing the finances and the check writing for the new restaurants.
Construction, all that.
Yeah. And she helps with the restaurants through bank recs and stuff like that, but she helped and the tax things. So she helps with those restaurants, answer questions and facilitate things, but it's a pretty lean team. And with that, we don't have a corporate office, so we are in the restaurants more. And so at that point of like, if you have a corporate office for your corporate team to handle payroll and AP, everybody will generally will gravitate to that from our support team. But the support team is all in the restaurant. So I think that our culture is better. I think our standards are better because the corporate team, the support team is in the restaurants helping, verifying standards, making sure that the guests are taken care of, make sure the team is being taken care of, as opposed to doing a bunch of admin work. The restaurant leaders or the managers, they, there is admin work that they have to do, but it's less, and it's, to what Corey was saying, the technology has allowed it to be so much faster and simpler that they're able to be up in the shift. They're able to hang out with the team and the guests to make sure their guest experience is good. And that's really where we want them to be. We want them to be up in the shift. We don't want them being in the office doing a bunch of admin work. And so the automated process is the things that we've built in complement with back office and TipHaus to help support the operators has been very helpful, but it's all been technology based. So the operators can operate the restaurant, and that's really what they want to do. We don't want to sit behind a computer. We want to be out with the team making food and drinks. That's why we're in the industry.
Yeah, no, we want to be throwing parties every night, right?
Oh yeah, that's my favorite part of bartending, is just throwing a party every night.
Yep, it's with all your friends who happen to be sitting across the bar from you. Yeah, so I mean, honestly, Kevin, that's like a phenomenal like ratio of like team members that are in that those support functions and leadership functions to the number of restaurants you have. Like that's one of the best ratios I've come across. So it really speaks to sort of how you guys think about particularly the implementation of tech and whatnot. You mentioned the GMs, and you want them to think of themselves as owners of the business. What do you do anything specifically to kind of align incentives around that so they actually feel that in their wallet in addition to the emotions of it?
Yes, for some GMs, and then some no. So for the senior GMs or the higher level GMs, most of them are running high volume restaurants, and they're kind of standalone, meaning we don't really have to help them. They truly run their business as it's their own. And in those scenarios, they share a portion of the profit of that restaurant. So we do a cash flow bonus for those restaurants. So part of their bonus is we look at the bank account at the end of the month, and then anything above and beyond what a baseline balance is, they get bonused off of that cash. And so utilizing the P&L, weekly, you can go through each one of the GLs and look to see where they can save money, everything from first aid costs to soaps and chemicals, because to-go supplies, like, hey, what's something that's cheaper that you can get somewhere else? Or like, hey, do you actually need this first aid kit that costs $200 every other week to come fill a couple Band-Aids? Or, can you go across the street to Fred Meyer to make sure that we have, the proper stuff to take care of the team, but can save money as you go through that process? So the high level folks understand that and utilize their autonomy to go make decisions as if it was their business, because at the end of the day, the more cash they have in their bank account from savings, they get a share in that. And so we have, I think, 6 or 7 of them that participate in that. And then it's such an awesome position to be in, and they're high level folks, they're great people that everybody strives to be like them. And so it creates that culture of, hey, how do I be like so and so? It's like, well, hey, let's talk about that. Let's go through your P&L together and see what things that we can possibly save on. What things can you work on to generate more sales, or how can you save more time to then go out in the community as opposed to being in the four walls? So yeah, we foster that mentality of just trying to be a standalone GM. But part of that is understanding financials, understanding how to develop team. Both of these processes that we're talking about, so back office and TipHaus, gives the team more time to develop their team, gives the leaders more time to develop their team, gives the leaders more time to go out into the community and volunteer, or go to the car dealership and be like, hey, you guys want to buy $1,000 in gift cards, or hey, you want to do a takeover night, those types of things.
That's great.
And Kevin, you talk a lot about like empowering your team members to take ownership of their business. I could see that potentially being a little scary to some executives and restaurant groups, to like putting all this power and all these tools into the hands of their GMs. Can you talk a little bit about like what was the experience like, kind of trusting them to take ownership of their business with the tools that you had in place?
Yeah. I think that you want to work with people who you trust, and you find out quickly through just taking the P&L example. You can sit down with the GM and just kind of work through it with them in a 15-minute time period and just figure out what they know and what they don't know, and then partner with them to teach them more things or to let them run. Because at the end of the day, we want people who don't want to be told what to do. So to your question, Corey, is like, we want to find people who will tell me, hey, Kevin, this is what I'm doing and this is why, this is where it's going to benefit. It's like, oh yeah, all right, we'll see you in a couple months. As opposed to like, hey, Kevin, what should I do? Kevin, what should I work on? Kevin, where do you see the gaps? And it's like, I'm not there every day to do that work. You're there every day. So what do you want to get accomplished? What do you want to see? So there's definitely a process to get there. But we want to find people, and we do find people that want to work off of what they want to work off of or work on, as opposed to what I want them to work on. So it takes time to find those types of people, but there are awesome people out there that don't want to be told what to do, and we don't want to tell people what to do either. So there's that great relationship or that balance that we try to find with our GMs. And the tools are there for them to research. So as we're working through this call, looking through each one of the GLs, you can pinpoint or dive deeper down into where the dollars are coming from. The restaurants write all the vendor checks. So when we're talking about first aid, we're talking about liquor, they write the checks to the vendors. That the invoice doesn't go from their restaurant to a corporate office, and the corporate office writes the check. So there's that like out of sight, out of mind in those types of scenarios where it's like, this person's just writing the checks, I have nothing to
You
do
feel
with
the
it.
pain of it.
Yeah, it's like, holy smokes, I just wrote a linen invoice for $150. Like, what is happening?
Yeah.
That is a great term. Steve was like, yeah, they feel the pain of writing that check, and it hits different. And so they think about how many towels they're going to use. It's like, hey, do we really need that many towels today? We need the appropriate amount to make sure we're clean and safe, but do we really need to use 15 towels or 40 towels? Like, no, you need to use 5. So
My favorite GMs would ration them. They would keep them locked in a locker, and they would hand them out to the heart of house team. This is yours for today. Keep it clean.
Yeah, yeah, exactly right. And even like uniforms, right? So uniforms can be expensive. And if a team member's like, hey, I forgot my uniform, it's like, okay, well, here's a shirt. Hey, I forgot my uniform. Here's a shirt. It's like, yo, I can't keep giving you shirts. So one, that's a pain in my butt. Two, it costs money. And so just those examples creates more ownership of your restaurant, but it's visible and it's seen by writing the check, showing up on their P&L. That creates that kind of ownership or visibility around spending money.
Yeah, that's great.
And it really sounds like Kevin, you're finding the right people, but you're also building them up with the combination of the right tools and the right training, right? And I think that's really how you hone in on that sweet spot, is the combination of the right team, the right tools, and then the right training to make sure that the team uses the tools effectively. And it seems like you've honed in really well on that dynamic.
Yeah, no, agreed. One thing, Kevin, look, Corey and I both believe we've got great platforms. And the software works pretty damn well pretty much all the time. But issues come up. And things may get coded wrong, or somebody clocked in incorrectly for a shift or something like that. When you've run into issues, or your team has, how do they get handled? What's been the sort of experience with like working with the tip house and back office teams from a support perspective?
Yeah, both your companies do an awesome job from a support standpoint. With tips, it's high impact for the team. And so when those errors come up, people raise a red flag right away. And so normally it's either a misunderstanding from the team member standpoint. So it's like, hey, we have to explain the whys or explain where things are coming from. Or it's an issue of us. Well, now I said that, it's most of the time a misunderstanding thing, because it's pretty clear on the tip side of, hey, this is where it goes, this is how it's distributed. The only time we ever ran into a real issue was with like third-party tips or online, coming from third-party platforms or coming from online ordering, where those tips get distributed. And or times where a bartender clocks in, and another bartender clocks in, hey, this table over here, where do those tips go? It's more of just this letting the team members know where it goes and how it's distributed.
Yep.
So from the tip out side, we haven't had a ton of issues or support even needed. At the beginning, it was, hey, this is what we now want to do now that we understand it better. And you guys fix it super quick, super easy. And it was kind of catered to what we wanted, which I loved about TipHaus. It was, hey, this is what we want. And TipHaus did it, as opposed to TipHaus was like, no, this is the system that you have to follow. And it's like, well, so it wasn't that. It was more catered to what we wanted. And TipHaus did it for us.
Right.
On the back office side, so we use support requests, which is very quick and they get responded to really fast. So the issues that come up are errors most of the time. Like, hey, we coded this invoice to the wrong date, or we coded it to the wrong GL. So, hey, we need to send a support request to get it changed to a different GL or different date. And it gets turned around in less than 24 hours, and they regenerate a P&L. And then we have real numbers that week or that day to be able to go make better decisions. So both partners, back office, the support is really quick. You get to know the people that you work with. They get to know our business, and so it becomes more of a partnership. And most of the time the errors are on our side that we just need help fixing, and they get fixed pretty quick.
Great. There's a couple of questions in the chat I'll jump into, and that kind of dovetails with one of mine. And what other kind of software platforms are you guys utilizing and leveraging? And there's a question about like, are you looking into new tools like AI or anything like that? And how are you thinking about that type of opportunity? to continue kind of improving the tech platforms?
Yeah. Well, some of the other tech platforms we use Toast. They have a lot of great reporting. From a guest and customer sentiment, we use this company called Tattle. And they provide us feedback with actionable data. So it's like, hey, this is things that your guests are saying about you that you can actually go and address, as opposed to secret shoppers. But so that's been really beneficial. AI, we've used it when we're using it more and more. So we do twice a year, we do a team member survey just to provide us feedback. We take all the feedbacks. We have 1,000 team members. And so, each restaurant will read through it. I read through the majority of it, but we put all the responses into AI and it chunks down common themes for us to then go and tackle. And so that's one big and easy way to start using AI. We've used
As
it
an
for
internal tool within your team, not a customer facing version of AI yet.
Yeah, no, yeah, exactly. So mostly internal. Yeah, we haven't done much external stuff, but mostly internal. We've used it for interviews and like a questionnaire. The thing that I think we're going to try to get into or start looking at from an AI perspective from guest facing is with online ordering and kind of that Amazon thought of like, hey, people also looked at this item or people also bought this item. Or Steve, last time you were on our platform, this is what you ordered. And so utilizing that. And so that's what we're talking about and figuring out how to use better. So to be able to have add-ons and or just help cater our guest experience a little bit easier as they come back to order for us.
Sense. Got a question more operational in nature around how you handle in-person meetings without a headquarters. Like, do you do it in the restaurants, or how often does your leadership actually meet in person?
Great question. So Zoom is an amazing thing. We're on Zoom today, and we swung pretty hard during COVID because we couldn't meet in person. And so we just started adopting Zoom and had a lot of Zoom meetings. And so we've used Zoom a lot. So I have weekly and bi-weekly one-to-ones with the people I directly work with. So we do Zoom meetings with them, or if I'm in person, like today, our COO is running around here. So him and I will meet in person, have lunch together. We do a weekly company meeting. It's called an O&I, an operations and intelligence meeting. We stole it from a book that we read, where it's open to the whole company. So every Tuesday, 8 o'clock, we have a meeting for an hour and we just talk about the things that the company's working on, or roadblocks. And the book, I believe, was called Team of Teams. But so we do that every week, and it just helps with communication, helps with letting our team know. So when we talk about being GM driven, if we give everybody the information, they can then go make decisions that works best for their restaurant at the time. And so we have that platform for everybody to come. We share what the company is working on, share what the things are happening inside the company. And then we have an open forum for people to ask questions. And then we also have a piece of that meeting where we just celebrate. We celebrate success stories of things that happened. We try to tell stories of what cool things were happening in the company. And so that thought of what I said earlier, but hey, how do you grow big and stay small at the same time? Every week they get to see my face. I may not see them for a whole quarter, but they can see my face, hear my voice, and just talk about things. And so I think it helps with culture as well. It feels like you're being a part of something bigger than yourself, bigger than
no, that's a really interesting point, because one of the challenges of the distributed nature of our business, right, is our team, like in some ways, restaurants are the original remote work situations in terms of like all of the different pockets of teams that we've got scattered over however many locations you might have. And so that's really interesting as a way to sort of stay engaged and have a presence with your teams, even though you can't be with them every day. Literally.
Yeah. And then as far as the company meeting standpoint, we don't really do So we do quarterly meetings with our company where we invite GM and then one other person. And then the executive team, we meet once a quarter as well as like an offsite meeting. So we'll go to one of our vendors, whether that be Pepsi or Edon or Cisco, and just use their meeting space to be in person for 2 days and just talk about what we want to do for the next quarter. But it is funny because I meet with companies, they're like, well, how do you remote work? And we have that problem in the sense that we're not always together. But we're in the restaurants, that's where our work is. And so the best way we do it is just through Zoom and set up Zoom calls.
That's great. Well, we're a few minutes over our originally allotted time. Kevin, it's been a pleasure and an honor to have you here with us and chatting about all this stuff. Thank you very much, everybody, for coming. And Corey, if you want to say anything in.
Yeah, just thanks everyone for joining. And Kevin, thank you for running a successful business and making us both look good.